Hey everyone, this is Blackburn79 with DragTheBar.com. I'm back here with part 2 of Crushing the Micros 2014. We had a good first session. We just opened up some sort of random tables, really, and as we can see in 2014, there's the blue are recreational players, that there are bad players everywhere. Should mention the reason I opened this Ace-8 here, this is not a standard open at all. The reason I opened it is because one of the bigger fish at the table, who's 100% VPI, oh, actually, wait a minute. Those stats are, his stats are over here. I just sat out, so for one hand, the stats will be off. He's a 54 VPIP. He's obviously one of the reasons to be at the table, and I have position on him. So, it's one spot where I talked about my ranges in the first video. I talked about from these early positions that I'm only going to be playing pairs and ace-king, ace-queen for the most part. Obviously, ace-8 suited is considerably outside of that range, but it's still a reasonable hand, and I think it's well ahead of what 54 VPIP, or 52 now, is likely to call with, and I'm also going to have position on him, which is, of course, huge. It's one of the things you can definitely do when you're only playing 4 tables like this is, make custom decisions like that to find those smaller edges that you just can't find when you're playing 16 or 24 tables at once. As I said, the games are clearly outstanding still here in 2014. I'm playing on a Monday morning. Should be the worst time to play. Although it's Monday morning here in Asia, it's actually Sunday night, I guess, in America, and Canada, which would actually not be, which would still be a bad time, I think. Or actually, I don't know. Maybe the games are still, the games are probably still good. There's probably some weekend fish still hanging around. Did not see bets on table 2 here. By the way, table 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I think it's a very draw-heavy board. I don't have a whole lot of equity with my pocket 4s, and I think that versus a bad player and what looks to be a bad reg, that we're not going to get folds that often, and the bigger issue is we just really have no equity with our pocket 4s in that spot there. I'm going to raise an ace against a random player in the big blind pretty much all the time, against a fish, so doesn't really make too much of a difference, but we get insta-called by a fish, which is what fish do, of course. It's not the greatest card, of course, on the turn. It completes some draws, makes some 2 pairs. I was going to do what I talked about in the first video, which is sort of slowing things down. A lot of times they'll just do this ridiculousness. Of course they don't too, which just allows us to make sort of a cheap call down. The question is here, what should we do? I think I'm just going to check and possibly check raise, because I pretty much expected him to just do that again. It allows me to get 4 more cents in the pot. And this also looks kind of bluffy when I do this. I'm not going to make it some crazy amount. I want him to call with a jack or maybe a 10, so. Or, okay, you had this right. We'll be behind there sometimes. It's just life. So he called with he called on the flop with the ass end, or the idiot end, gut shot. Wow. Oh, I guess he had a wait a minute, he had a diamond draw also with the 7 high diamond draw. Excuse me. The games are good at NL2 in 2014. I think in the first video we wanted 83 big blinds per 100. I know the sample's only 135 hands or whatever, but these players are nutty. I didn't even do any table selection hardly at all. As we talked about in the first video, it's just not about, and I've talked about this so many times, it's just about not shooting yourself in the foot. Most people at these stakes, they go crazy with marginal hands. I talked about all this in the first video. Definitely check out the first video if you have not seen it yet. This would be a spot, There's zero reason to get involved here. Zero. Absolutely. This should just be a fold 100% of the time. This looks to be a reg-type player. He's betting into 2 people. He's probably got jacks or ace-10 or something. Just let him have it. Don't get out of line and do stupid stuff. That's why people don't win at ridiculous win rates like I do, because they do dumb stuff in spots like that. Just fold. No reason to do anything else. So against kind of a sort of a laggier player. It's kind of strange. Don't see that very often these stakes. So I'm just going to bet with my top pair and just sort of see how it plays out. That's why we're there with the Ace King in position. You know, I mean, a player like this, 21-15, it's kind of six max stats. I expect him to probably, his aggression factor is infinite so far. I expect him to probably raise me light a fair bit and spot like that. You don't normally see these kind of lag players at NL2. So in position there, I'd probably be calling with the Ace King and, just kind of sort of see what happens after that. Depends on the turn card. Depends on if he barrels again, how much. We should always be looking at the opponent's player type and making our decisions, of course, based on that. As a unique player at these stakes, you're hardly ever going to see that type of player at these stakes. So, mostly what you're going to see at these stakes, excuse me, are bad regs and fish. Take table 1 for instance. Let's go around the table. And again, I say this in all these videos. I deeply apologize if anybody is watching this video who's in this video. I'm not trying to say anything bad about you. It's nothing personal or anything. I'm just looking objectively at the stats, and from my experience, we have to call some players bad and some players good. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. The player in seat 1 here appears to be playing quite a bit too tight. And that's what I mean, that you'll see a lot of bad regs or overly tight regs. This guy might be a winner. There's no reason he can't be. There is no gap between VPIP and PFR. And I guess I should go over the stats briefly, just in case anybody hasn't seen the first video, which they should, or any of my other videos. I'll use God Among Men here on table 1. 37 is the number of hands. 46 is the VPIP, or percentage of hands that he plays. 24 is the pre-flop raise. 2 is the aggression factor. I've kind of got the acronyms for most of the other ones. Below, we've got fold to steal, fold to 3-bet, 3-bet, fold to flop c-bet, fold to turn c-bet, fold to river c-bet, and then on the bottom row I have c-bet flop, his c-bet turn, and his c-bet river. So going around the table here once again, on seat 1 we have one of these players who's playing insanely tight, bad reg, or just way too tight in general. We have another player who's not even played a hand yet in seat 2, probably again one of these ultra tight regs. I'm going to play a Jack 7 here, 2 fish left behind. I'm going to fold the 5-4 actually, just because I don't have position on this guy, and he's going to call with any 2, and it's going to be difficult to take it down. We've got a simple spot here because the guy has no money. Always look at the stack size first. We have top pair, so obviously all the money's going to go in here. I think I just make it about 2/3 pot there, and pretty easily be able to get the money in if he wants to. So in seat 3 on table 1, we have another one of these players who appears to be playing quite a bit too tight. He's only playing 10% of hands. I think he should be playing about 15 to 20% of hands in a full-ring game, optimally. Seat 4, we have a recreational player, or pretty much a whale, as he's approaching 50% VPIP. We've got the same thing in seat 6 here. He's at 50% VPIP with a 0 pre-flop raise. This is the classic whale stats. Playing half the deck, extremely passive, doesn't raise with anything. It's a perfect spot to just set mine here. 3-betting would certainly be overplaying. We want to see flops versus bad players, not get crap loads of money in pre-flop with marginal hands like pocket 5s. We're going to need to hit a set to win a big pot, to play a big pot here. So there's no point in creating a big pot pre-flop when our hand is still fairly marginal. I think clearly our hand is probably the best here most of the time, so I'm just going to take a stab at it. Continuing to go around the table, we have a reg here in table 7 who, let's look at the clues here. We have a stack size. Again, I'm not going to screw around in a spot like this. I think we talked about that before with the King 9 hand or something like that. Yes, we have backdoor flush draw and a gut shot. But that's not really a whole lot to go on. It's a paired boards. He bet a decent amount. There's 0 point in getting involved. Just let them have it. So, yeah. So once again, at seat 7 here, we have a reg who has I'm about 75% pot here, so 2/3, whatever. We have a reg here with a large gap between VPIP and PFR. Probably not a good reg. Most regs are between 2 or 3 points is the gap in that spot. I'll just raise this, I guess. I do have a fish to my left there. Continuing around the table, we have a player in seat 8 here who I'd probably refer to as an SLP, 24-6. He's not playing as many stats as hands as the whale. He's playing, these guys are playing half the deck, whereas this guy's playing a quarter of the deck. But you can see the massive discrepancy between VPIP and PFR. He's playing a few too many hands for sure, and